It is the FTN Fast Break Podcast, Monday, September 23rd, 2004, episode 11. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome in. Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kawaisenberg DFS, joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike Randall, at Randall Rant. Of course, still hurtling towards Media Day, preseason games, and ultimately the tip-off of the NBA regular season. But we're also coming off a crazy week 3 in the NFL, Mike. So gathering ourselves here on a Monday. How you doing?
Yeah, very excited that the public has seemed to struggle. Last year, they dominated the NFL. I wonder if this is going to carry over to the NBA this year. But so far, the books are fighting back and fighting back hard. We have unders, we have underdogs. So that could be signs of a frisky NBA season, Zach.
Yeah. Hey, my Pittsburgh Steelers, 3-0. I don't know how, but I'll take it.
Yes.
Of course, here to talk some hoops of all kinds, right? We've got some NBA news, some extensions. We've got Adrian Wojnarowski retiring. We've got WNBA playoffs tipped off yesterday. And some TMZ videos to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump in here, Mike, on this Monday. We'll start up top. Former MVP Joel Embiid signs a 3-year, $193 million maximum extension with the Philadelphia 76ers. He will have a player option in the 28-29 season and will reportedly, to get this extension done, decline the current player option he has for the 26-27 season. So for those 3 years, $64.3 million per season. Based on how many games Joel Embiid plays, Mike, that's almost $1 million a night.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's a big number, and it's going to come down to a championship, Zach. That's how we define all of these contracts. Are they going to win a title? Are they going to deliver it? Get the Sixers to the finals? That's the key. Has the talent, MVP, has everything we need, but that's what's going to be judged. Is he going to turn into Paul George, where he's going to travel around searching for it, or is he going to bring one to Philly and cement the legacy as one of the greatest players ever, Hall of Famer, of course? That is the microscope by which we will examine this contract, but that's a hefty price tag.
Yeah, speaking of hefty price tags, right, it's not just that 63-ish million, 63, 64. Paul George signed the 4-year deal with them this offseason, so 3 seasons from now, $57 million to Paul George, $64 to Joel Embiid. I guess that's the price of a title window, right?
Oh, without a doubt. That's what's going to come down to, because you need to build around those stars, but you have to have the right stars to build. You just can't put them together. We see that doesn't always work. It even started back with LeBron with the big 3. It took a while for them to get acclimated. So is this the right combination? Embiid, is he confident? Does he want it enough? Now he has Paul George. Is that the appropriate person to join them with Tyrese Maxey, etc.? That's the key. Is it the right collection of superior talent in Philly?
And look, a lot of things can happen over the course of, 5 years now that Joel Embiid is under contract with this team. But assuming things don't go crazy and he requests a trade somewhere in the middle of this deal, this is probably making him a Philadelphia 76er for life, or for his career, right? Which, again, is not something you see every day in the league these days, especially with those bigger market teams. So I would assume most Philly fans happy to lock up the former MVP for this extension. And again, another extension here, our buddy Adam Pfeiffer, maybe not jumping for joy like some of these Philly fans could have been with that news, but Isaac Okoro signs a 3-year, $38 million extension with the Cavs. Of course, he has also been 5th overall pick in that 2020 draft. So extending here with the team that selected him 4 years ago. 9 points, 3 boards a game, 69 appearances, 42 starts last year for the Cavs. Of course, advancing past that first round in the 7-game series against the Magic. Shot a career best 39% from 3 last year, which I think went a long way to him securing this bag. Cavs busy summer continuing, right? Or off season, right? We're into the fall now as of yesterday, but you add this Okoro extension to what they already got done with Spider Mitchell, with Evan Mobley, with Jarrett Allen. Again, getting the band back together.
Critical piece, only 23 years old. Weird to think here that he's only 23 because he was a star at Auburn, got hurt when they were making their run. Excellent player all around, steals, blocks, and I want to see the improvement, especially when you're looking at someone who's not the leading scorer. 29, 35, 36. Now, as you mentioned, over 39% from three-point range. Also solid from the field as well, 49%. Want to see him get to double digits here, but he is a critical role player, someone who's going to play defense, do those things, doesn't have to score to impact the game. This is a move you make if you're a Cleveland team that feels you can get to the next level, because these are you don't want to hunt for these type of glue guy players. You want to have someone who knows their role, accepts it, and works on it. And that's what Isaac Okoro does for the Cavs.
And I'm glad you brought up the age, right? 23 years old. I think that raised my eyebrows seeing that in reading the articles about the extension. So completely agree with you there. I think this is a good deal, probably for both sides, right? I don't know if Isaac Okoro was getting close to $40 million elsewhere. No. And this gives the Cavs, again, that depth that you need if you're going to go further in the Eastern Conference, or even make it out of the conference and maybe to the finals over the next few seasons.
When you say hometown discount, sometimes that works both ways. Sometimes you get more money by staying home. That's what happened here with Okoro.
So this one hits close to home. This hurts my heart. Although I choose to enjoy, think back on the good times that one Boban Marjanovic brought us. Boban officially leaving the NBA, signing a contract with Fenerbahce over there, back overseas, going to play in the EuroLeague. 9 seasons in the association for Marjanovic, of course, starting with my Spurs, but then getting a bag from Detroit, moving on to the Clippers, the Sixers, the Mavericks, and then most recently with the Houston Rockets. Of course, for us in the fantasy space, Boban was a DFS darling, but of course, he also made a huge impact on everybody around the NBA that crossed paths with him. I mean, he was such a likable and personable character that he got into the John Wick movie series. He got a national endorsement with Goldfish, which are my favorite snack. So, man, I love Boban. I love to see him going back home, overseas and finishing off almost $40 million in career earnings from the NBA. And who knows how much he made with those other things that I mentioned. And just, again, to highlight the guy that Boban is, in his last NBA game with the Rockets. It's fourth quarter. It's the final game of the season. Both the Rockets and the Clippers are locked in to their fates at the end of the regular season. Boban at the line. In the Clippers arena, they have the gimmick going. An opponent misses 2 free throws. Free Chick-fil-A for everybody. Boban misses the first. The crowd gets loud. He points to himself, points to the crowd, misses the second one on purpose. Chicken for everybody. You got to love Boban.
Yeah, I tell my kids, the most important thing you can be as you get older is genuine. Be who you are. The crowd and the public and your friends and acquaintances will adapt to you. And that's what we did with Boban. We embraced him, made a lot of money, a lot of different teams, stepped on the court with DFS when we did get on, did a fantastic job. Wick, Goldfish, everything. Boban, there should be more Boban in everyone's life because he is genuine, a fun-loving person. Missing the free throws, a perfect way to go out here for Big Boban.
Man, and I am the only person that I know that has a Boban Marjanovic Spurs jersey. So I should have worn it on the podcast here today. But keeping it pushing here on the fast break, mentioned it earlier, Adrian Wojnarowski announces his retirement, right? The final Woj bomb, as it were, just kind of on a random Wednesday, middle of last week. And then turns around, I guess, talking about the ESPN contract that he's leaving behind here, Mike, $20 million, right around there, left on his ESPN contract because he's around $7 million a year, had 3 years left on that deal with the worldwide leader. And then, like I said, that was the final Woj bomb. His actual final report was that Isaac Okoro extension. So another little cookie to Okoro there. You got the final Woj report. But then shortly thereafter, Woj slides the little scoop to his ESPN colleagues. I see Shefty, I see Jeff Passan tweeting out that Woj will now accept a job as the general manager of the St. Bonaventure men's basketball program, right? That's his alma mater. Reportedly, his duties as GM will include managing the program's NIL funds, recruiting, and assisting head coach Mark Schmidt. So I know throwing kind of multiple avenues of discussion there at you. Let's start with the college hoops thing because this is more interesting to me, a little bit eyebrow raising as well. I was a college coach before, not at the D1, certainly not a Power 5 level. The Bonnies aren't Power 5. GMs in college basketball, is this just an NIL thing? What's going on here, Mike?
I'll start with this. You may not realize this, Zach. I live in northern New Jersey. I live in Bergen County. There are over 20 counties in New Jersey. Bergen County is the one that's closest to the city. That's where Woj started. He was a sports columnist here for the Bergen Record, which is the local paper. We were in high school. We all looked up box scores years ago. No one even understood that. But Woj was the main guy for us. So I grew up on Woj. When he made this jump, I remember saying, wow, Bergen Record guy gets to the NBA to be an insider, but it speaks to his connections. It speaks to his ability to hustle. And as he said, he doesn't want to be on his phone in the shower, all of those things that make total sense. But college basketball has changed. We heard it with Nick Saban and his wife. When Nick Saban left college football, he said the people, they come in and all the parents ask, am I going to start? How much NIL am I getting? And to Woj's credit, because of his alma mater, first of all, Mark Schmidt is a superior college basketball coach. He's superior. He's great. I was hoping Boston College would steal him at some point. They did not. He stayed, just does a wonderful job. And the Bonnies are always a tough out, not only in the A-10 tournament, but also when they become a underseeded team in the NCAA tournament. You need this because the head coaches don't want to deal with this. You know this, Zach. You're game planning defense. You're watching film. You don't want to sit down and worry about how much money you have to pay an incoming recruit. So it's a great job. I believe Baker Dunleavy is doing it for Villanova, I think, as well, which is why some people are saying he's sort of the coach in waiting behind Kyle Neptune. If that doesn't work stuff out. But it's a great position. You have a guy who's got more connections than anyone. He knows salary cap, things like that, NIL inside out. And now he's going back to his alma mater. But it's great because it lets the coaches coach. Imagine if I was doing that for you, Zach. You coach inverted triangle and 2, whatever you want to do. And oh, by the way, I'll tell you how we're doing with the recruits because I'll do the negotiating. That's it. Happy for Woj. Big connection with me, reading him growing up, dominated insider, got information. Now he's going back to the Bonnies. Well done, sir.
Yeah, I would have loved to not only maybe have a GM, but be the GM myself because I loved the recruiting part of coaching. I loved all of it, but being able to focus in on one. And I guess another thought that I had was like, okay, I understand getting out of the intense reporting game. You're on the beat of the entire association. You're the average screen time. I think Shams Charania shared his average screen time during free agency was over 19 hours a day. So I understand wanting to get away from that after the run that Woj has been on here, but going to run a D1 basketball program, Power 5 or not exactly sitting by the pool in retirement. But congratulations to Woj. And it'll be interesting to watch him go through this new chapter.
And it's funny, Zach, a couple years ago, we noticed what I believe was when Woj started saying, maybe it's time. The number 1 pick, Jabari Smith versus Paolo Banchero. He was positive it was Jabari Smith. He stayed with it. There were insiders and sharps that I knew who were saying it's Banchero. Stay with it. Woj is wrong. The odds swung. They then swung back in Woj's favor because he doubled down. And sure enough, that day, the odds crept down and Woj had to sit 30 minutes before the NBA draft starts and say, according to insider information, it actually is now going to be Paolo Banchero. Woj, we had it a day ago. Nothing against him at all. It's just there's a point at which you say, look, I've done my job. I've been the lead. Woj bombs. I have a name after myself. Maybe it's time to try something else. And I'm telling you this, Bonnie's over. I'm going with it right now because Schmidt can coach anyone and Woj is going to help the program.
I love it. Next piece here. Toronto Raptors will retire Vince Carter's number 15 jersey when they host the Sacramento Kings on November 2nd. And now while I was, surfing the interwebs here, Mike, trying to look at some reaction from some actual Raptors fans, I was somewhat surprised. And then once I thought about it and read through the context that these fans, anonymous fans were giving, a little bit less than thrilled. not that Vince Carter's getting his jersey retired, but I think there's a conversation that some of those fans may want to have because, again, you remember Vince was not super happy there during his entire tenure in Toronto. But one of the points that stuck with me, and I could get it from the Raptors fan base, is that Vince getting his number retired before a Kyle Lowry, before a DeMar DeRozan. I could get that type of emotion from a fan base. But ultimately, again, I think from an outsider's perspective, Vince Carter, very well deserving of getting his jersey hung in the rafters there north of the border.
It almost makes sense that Carter goes first because he didn't win a title there because it was Lowry and DeRozan. And though, DeRozan, those type of guys, DeRozan was there longer, Lowry, critical piece there to the team. So I'm fine with Vince Carter. Vince Carter memories. I go back to working in the summer at the Seton Hall basketball camp. Vince Carter came out to talk to the kids, and all they want him to do, Zach, is what? Dunk. Okay.
Yep.
These are kids. And he said, like, I'm rehabbing my leg or something. Vince, we didn't need the 720. You could have just run up and done a quick one.
Yeah.
So that soured me on Carter a little bit, but one of the greatest dunkers we've ever seen, Frederick Weiss, enough. I mean, and he's a guy that I think he was a little curmudgeon. He was at North Carolina, the whole thing. Mm. But I think he became more popular with fans as he got older. He lost the edge. You've seen it with players, like a Belichick has softened, like Tiger Woods. Same thing with Carter. Great dunker, streaky, could absolutely light it up, but really didn't endear himself, especially to Toronto, but got better there as his career went on. And the longevity is incredible for a guy who couldn't even dunk back in God knows when. Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say the longevity, right? Because comes into the league 1998, goes out, right? This was my Vince Carter memory. Because again, Fred Weiss, and it's over at the dunk contest. And of course, all of the moments throughout 20 plus years in the league. But the memory that sticks with me, Vince Carter made the last shot in the NBA before it shut down for the COVID pandemic.
Yes. Very good.
It was the garbage time of a game. They figured this is going to be Vince's last game. So they're feeding him the ball. He knocks down a three from the top of the key. And then, of course, the world just kind of shuts down. So Vince Carter, always fun to bring up Vinsanity on the pod. Just a few more things here. And you actually alerted me to this one in the midweek. Derek White gets into an altercation in the stands at the Colorado versus Colorado State football game. Of course, Derek White, one-time Buffalo. TMZ, of course, had the video. And so I don't really have too much commentary on this, Mike, but it did send me down a little bit of a Derek White rabbit hole. And apparently when he goes back to these CU games, he likes to do it just like he would have when he was on campus as a student athlete. I saw an interview of Jaylen Brown talking about Derek White getting drunk at 10 a.m. at the tailgate. So Jaylen was like, well, when in Rome. And so we had a blast that day. It looked like Derek White, up to that point, was having a good time at that game and glad that nothing crazy actually happened during that altercation. And also, he's got some good friends because they got him out of there, out of harm's way pretty quickly.
Oh, we've seen it over and over again. And the fans are just, they think their reach is way out of line. Go back to the Yankees-Red Sox with Gary Sheffield, where a Red Sox fan grabbed Sheffield in the middle of the game, which, by the way, Zach, is a bad move if you know Gary Sheffield. Okay. So the fans, it's going to happen. When you show up at a game like that, NBA, NFL, college, doesn't matter, something is going to happen. Go on the field, take the pass, take the access. But if you stay in the stands, you're messing with something where you're only going to lose. Derek White, incredible guy, great player, everything. You're putting yourself in a bad situation. It's a shame, but it's the truth. You're going to see fans do that. I see it all the time. NFL games wearing jerseys, can't do it. You have to realize that you have to avoid those situations. Great job by his friends as well. Yeah. That's what the group should do. Get him out of there because people are going to look to start trouble all the time. So I'm glad it wasn't as bad, but I did see it. And I said, this is good for the Fast Break pod. Let me send this over to Zach. I hate to see it because I know fans go over the line all the time with players.
Yeah, and I was, of course, Derek White, member of my Spurs to start his career, but I also have an affinity for him because of where he played his college ball, played some NAIA ball at Johnson and Wales University in Denver, which then, after he graduated, became a Division III school. was in the conference where I was coaching before coming to FTN. So another little Derek White connection there. Glad everything's smooth after that potential disaster in the stands there. Switching gears here to the W. First round of the playoffs began yesterday on Sunday. We had a quadruple header, which was a ton of fun to watch. I had the dual screens going with my Steelers on one, the WNBA on the other. And it is pretty straightforward. The favorites all come out on top here. First of all, New York on the early game in the matinee, take care of Atlanta, 83-69, pretty much a wire-to-wire victory to there. And then in the afternoon game, right, the primetime Sun versus the Fever, Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas smashed the Fever, do the Sun 93-69. Alyssa Thomas, triple-double. Caitlin Clark just 4 of 17 from the floor in her first postseason game. Tyasha Harris for the Sun did injure her ankle, left the game in the first quarter, did not return. Minnesota comes out on top 102-95 over Phoenix. And this was a fun shootout for the Lynx. Nafisa Collier plays the full 40. The Lynx assisted on 30 of their 34 makes in this game, and the two teams combined to go 24 of 51 from three. It's not very often that you see a WNBA game in regulation approach 200 total points. For me, Mike, this was the best game of the night, at least until we got to the nightcap where the Aces struggle, right? Back-to-back champions is Vegas, struggling with the Seattle Storm here. They end up winning the Aces 78-67 on a 14-2 fourth quarter score. Tiffany Hayes, massive game off the bench for the Aces, 20 points, 4 boards, and 5 steals. But putting a little bit of a scare into the defending champs.
Most excited I've ever been about the WNBA playoffs. 4 great games. Yes, it got away from the fourth quarter, a couple of games, but 14-2 for the Aces in the fourth quarter. Unreal. Only complaint I have, call it a mini stock down, Zach, before we get to the end of the show. You can't start on a Sunday. You just can't, because
I agree.
This is drama. This is great stuff. I cannot wait until Tuesday and Wednesday so we can have the floor cleared just for the WNBA. Never been better. Games are competitive, star quality, big runs, everything you want that we asked for in our NBA playoffs, etc. WNBA has it. Can't wait for Tuesday, Wednesday. Great way to start. Just wish we got more eyes on it than a Sunday against the NFL is always going to be tough.
Fantastic point, Mike. And again, the Tuesday, Wednesday, where we're not going to have any football, those game twos, if you're not familiar with the WNBA playoff structure, those are elimination games. This is a best of 3 first round format. So then any game 3s that we could potentially have, Thursday and Friday. So it's going to be a great week of action in the WNBA playoffs. Of course, we will be tuned in. You mentioned stock up, stock down, how we close out every episode of the Fast Break podcast here at FTN. Mike, let's start with our stock downs, and I'll toss it to you. Where's the stock falling this week?
We got to stop with Rookie of the Year. Okay. This is such a mispriced market, and there's so many opportunities, Zach, I think, for some nice cashes. Zach Edey at plus 550, very shaky. Depends on his role, how efficient he's going to be. Reed Shepherd struggled a little bit in the summer league, so I'm not, I love Reed Shepherd. Don't know if he's going to get it his first year. So you have Reese Shea, Sar, Stefan Castle at plus 1,000 is a great call. Dalton Connect has the easiest path, I think, to relevancy. He's at plus 1,100. We talked about Bub Carrington at plus 1,500. So stock down to me, the favorites in the Rookie of the Year. Stock up some of the values that you see. I'll take a flyer on Terrence Shannon at plus 4,000 to be able to, if a couple injuries happen, I know he needs, it's a hard path, but he gets on the floor, he's going to score. So I'm excited about the opportunities, but hate the pricing here early on with some of those favorites. I think it's mispriced, but in a good point, gives us some value as well.
Yeah, Zach Edey, right? He's been one of the players that continuously comes up for extended conversation on those best ball live streams we've been doing on Friday. That's one of the biggest storylines for me right now headed into the season.
Zach, if you put 1 cent down on Bronny James to win the Rookie of the Year, I will come down and hunt you. I swear. Bronny James right now, folks, plus 25,000. Okay, just don't.
I mean, I would think about some odds for like Bronny scoring, I don't know, 20 points
A
in the
basket?
league this year. Yeah.
All right.
So
Johnny Furphy's plus 15,000. Okay.
right. Well, my stock down this week is WNBA expansion. ... If you don't include the Houston Comets. I know Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, of course, has said he's going to put in his bid to bring the Comets franchise back to Houston. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert said they announced the Portland expansion team in this last week. And then Commissioner Engelbert saying they want to get up to at least 16 teams by the end of this next kind of expansion window. The Houston Comets were my first love in the WNBA. We did not have the San Antonio Silver Stars. So Cynthia Cooper, Raise the Roof, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, four-peat. The first 4 championships in the history of the W were won by the Comets. We know that the Houston market can support a team. Bring back the Comets, even though I'm not a fan anymore because now I'm with my Aces after they moved from San Antonio. Bring back the Comets.
Bring back the Comets. It's the perfect time. Capitalize on the momentum the WNBA has. One of my favorite locations in college basketball, the Fertitta Center.
Yeah.
Very tough to win there. Would love to see it come back 100%. This is the time. Push your chips in the middle, all in, get them back, bring the Comets back. Agree 100%. Growing up, that was the dominant team. Would love to see them come back.
All right, closing out with our stock ups for the week. We going back to look at some odds here, Mike?
Yeah, we're going back to look at some odds. Stock up, SGA. It's time. He's ready to go. Plus 600. That number will not last. There's Jokic. There's Doncic. I get it. SGA at plus 600 has the same odds as Joel Embiid. His ascension just continues, and I think it's going to happen again. There are players I have no interest in. Jaylen Brown. Did you know, Zach, that the last time you have a player like Jaylen Brown who's going to possibly beat out Jason Tatum for MVP, it's just not going to happen. I'm looking back at Kuzi and Russell. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it coming off the world title. So there's so many things that are not, I have no interest in. Wemby at plus 2,000, I'm sure you're interested in. I just think the NBA MVP award has become sort of crowning a player who's arrived to get into that special small clique, with the velvet rope behind to get in. SGA has been there talent-wise. The Thunder made a nice run last year, played well. I think it's time. Stock up on SGA in Oklahoma City. Let's see him take the MVP this year. Could argue could have had it last year. Plus 600, I think that number's going to drop.
I love it. And speaking of futures, right? I'll have a futures article out on FTNfantasy.com later this week, maybe talking some SGA MVP shares. We shall see. I'll close out our stock up here for the week, Mike, and kind of both of us going to the same area, right? The same category here for our stock downs and stock ups this week, because ESPN reports that the Oklahoma City Thunder will give the Seattle Supersonics their history back if the NBA grants Seattle an NBA expansion team. And any other answer from the Thunder franchise, I think, would spark just mass revolt in the NBA community, because who doesn't love the history of the Seattle Supersonics? They were the first team outside of the Bulls that I knew when I was 4, because I'm watching the Sonics take on the Bulls in the finals, 95, 96, I want to say it was. So I remember the Sean Kemps and the Detlef Schrempf, and of course the Glove and Hershey Hawkins and the like. And of course, right, 78, 79 title winners, I believe, were the Sonics. Coach Lenny Wilkins, Jack Sigma on that team. Bring us back the Sonics. And of course, now that we know the history is coming with them, I love the color scheme in Seattle too. I can't wait.
No, Sonics have to go back. I'll go in between there. So they had the title run, and then they had Dale Ellis, Xavier McDaniel, and before Vince Carter's dunk on Frederick Weiss, you had Tom Chambers' dunk. Look it up. He put his knees in somebody's face and dunked. Everyone went crazy. The Tom Chambers dunk. Seattle Supersonics here. Bring it back. Love it. And then, of course, the Glove, Sean Kemp, Rainmaker. Love everything about them. As an 8 seed, I believe, with Kemp, they knocked off a 1 seed, I think, in the playoffs. A lot of history. Love the Sonics. Would love to see it come back there. Much similar to what you said about the Houston Comets. Same thing here with Seattle.
Anything else for you, Mike, before we shut it down on this week's episode of The Fast Break?
That is it, sir. What a great job as always. We're warming. I can tell the topics are coming. We're
Yes,
less.
sir.
We're exactly less than 1 month away from opening
Yep.
night. Yep.
Oh, cannot wait. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here in episode 11 of the Fast Break podcast. We'll be back next week, but expect the episode to be on Tuesday because Monday the 30th, NBA Media Day. So we don't want to miss anything from that. So expect the episode to come out either late Monday evening, Tuesday around lunch latest. We'll have the next episode of Fast Break out to you. I mentioned Futures article coming later this week on FTN Fantasy. You can get my underdog best ball rankings for free if you're an FTN Fantasy subscriber. First, our edition of the Best Ball Diary series is also posted right now, and you can join me, of course, live 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Another edition of our live streamed underdog NBA best ball drafts come through. It's been a blast, and it's draft season. We're under a month until the season starts. Cannot wait to experience it with you all. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you back here next week for another episode of the Fast Break. Until then, he's Mike, and I'm Zach. Goodbye.